Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. Candide. By Voltaire. Voltaire's philosophical novel Candide was published in Geneva in 1759. It was banned within a month of publication by the Paris City Council. Despite this, copies of the book began appearing in Paris and other European cities. Readers loved the book, but it was attacked multiple times after its first triumph. The work was published 40 times during Voltaire's lifetime. He would answer to detractors by claiming that he had not written the book they were accusing him of having written. The author didn't spend much time on the plot or character development. For Voltaire, seeing his characters as real people would make us feel sorry for them, and that, in turn, would make it difficult to see the humor in the story. There were several unusual happenings and paradoxes that were linked to the philosophical terminology by the author. Regardless matter what happens in his life, Candide remains steadfast in his conviction that his life is flawless and the best it could be. This story is a response to Leibniz's belief that we live the finest possible existence. It's not disputed in the novel, but the author let the main character go through so much pain and anguish that it makes the philosophy appear absurd. Voltaire slammed war, bloodshed, human folly, religious bigotry, and many other things in his writings. In the end, we can say that Voltaire wasn't a supporter of pessimism himself. Just because people already had the finest of everything, he thought, didn't mean they shouldn't try to improve on it. In his youth, Candide was a well-mannered, courteous, and intelligent young man, but he was also naive. Candidus in Latin implies naive or pure. Baron Thunder ten Tronck of Westphal, Germany owned the castle where he lived. The baron's family, including his wife and children, resided in the castle, as did Pangloss, the school teacher. Leibniz's theory was in harmony with Pangloss's life. The best of all worlds, he thought, was a place where everything was perfect. As far as Candide was concerned, she was on board with this viewpoint. Candide was expelled from the castle for trying to kiss the baron's daughter, Cunegonde. His life entered a new phase at that point. As he traveled the world, he discovered that folly, suffering, and evil are prevalent in every corner of it. He was tricked into joining the Bulgarian army, and he was lucky to be alive at the end of it. Everything he observed throughout the conflict made him afraid. In the Netherlands, he ran upon Pangloss, a beggar who turned out to be a wizard. Even when Pangloss learned that the Bulgarians had destroyed the castle and slain Cunegonde, he remained convinced that all was well in the best of all possible worlds. After that, Pangloss and Candide traveled to Portugal, namely to Lisbon. After a powerful earthquake, they arrived just in time. The Inquisition arrested both of them after they made a series of incriminating statements. Candide was whipped till he was bleeding profusely as Pangloss was hanged. A woman cared for him after he was wounded. In Cunegonde, she shared her life tale with him. She had made it out alive, but she was now the mistress of not one but two men. A Jewish financier and a great inquisitor were the only two people who could have been involved. Candide assassinated them both and fled to Buenos Aires with Cunegonde. Candide was compelled to flee to Paraguay after the Spanish governor fell in love with Cunegonde. It turns out the priest who welcomed him was Cunegonde's brother. They were pleased to see each other, but their joy wore off quickly. Candide broke the news to him that he plans to marry his sister, and he was terrified. It turned physical, and Candide slashed at him with his sword before he was able to get away. He and his servant Cacambo fled to a kingdom of cannibals, where they were captured and eaten alive. Cacambo's resourcefulness saved them from certain death. At last, they've reached El Dorado, the fabled region where everything is plated in gold. No church, courthouse, or prison was required because the locals were so honorable, smart, and devout. As a result of the state's efforts, the level of living is excellent. Candide couldn't stay long in Cunegonde's absence since he couldn't bear to be apart from her. In El Dorado, he accumulated a large amount of gold and jewels before departing. After that, he decides to travel to Europe and sends Cacambo to Buenos Aires to petition the governor to release Cunegonde. He was joined by an elderly scientist whose views on the world were diametrically opposed to those of Pangloss's Candide. They discussed free will, vices, destiny, good, bad, and virtues while riding. Paris was Candide's first stop, and after seeing the city's culture, he decided to proceed to Venice. He met Poco Current, a rich man who couldn't enjoy life despite his wealth, and 6 kings who had lost their throne while in the area. Candide became increasingly convinced that no one can escape a terrible punishment and that the only individuals free from it reside in El Dorado. Cunegonde, her brother Pangloss Cacambo, and the scientist continue on their journey. Candide marries Cunegonde, despite her being old and ugly. Candide bought the estate with the gems and gold he found in El Dorado. While Pangloss remains steadfast in his beliefs about life, Candide is no longer concerned with them. Candide's final words, "Everyone should cultivate their own garden," conclude the book. Candide, a sincere and trustworthy young man. He spent the majority of his life on the move, and he had a rough time of it. For him, this was the best world of all worlds. He finally came to the conclusion that it wasn't true and that he needed to move forward in his life with everyone else. He was madly in love with Cunigund and married her despite the fact that she was elderly and ugly. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.